Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about Peopleware Chapter 8. It's called You Never Get Anything Done around here between 9 and 5. Chapter 8 tries to nail down the importance of a good working environment and what effect that has on a person's productivity. The authors measure a few qualities that they go into late in the chapter, but I'll tell you them now so the rest of the chapter makes sense early on. So when they say they're measuring work environment quality, they're measuring these 6 things, of which 3 are factual and 3 are opinion-based or self-reported. The 3 factual ones are how much square footage is allotted for each worker, and does the company allow workers to silence their phones and divert calls. These 3 self-reported, the 3 self-reported opinion-based qualities are answering the questions, is it acceptably quiet, is it acceptably private, and lastly, do people often interrupt you needlessly? So with those in mind, let's go back to the beginning of the chapter where they quantify performance across many companies and many developers. The concept is a coding war game where each participating company assigns 2 engineers to do a coding project of some kind, and then along with the results of the project, each participating person answers some questions about himself personally, things like salary and years of experience, and about the company that he works at. The 6 questions from a minute ago. Over the course of 3 years, the authors gave the challenge to over 600 developers from 92 companies, and this is what they found. And by the way, this is an important study to keep in mind for future chapters as well. It'll get referenced a lot because it's a pretty expansive study and they go into a lot of what they found. So performance, quote unquote performance, being measured as a combination of how much time was taken, how accurate to the project the result was, and how many errors were produced, and how completely it passed an acceptance test. These were the results. The best performers outperformed the worst by 10 to 1. The best performer was 2.5 times better than the median performer, and the 50% that are better than the median outdid the other half by 2 to 1. If this is a little much to follow, you can see in the book there's a distribution curve that shows performance isn't normally distributed and makes it easier to visualize the results. So let's start out with what isn't correlated with individual performance. The first, and maybe least surprisingly, is language. People did well or poorly regardless of what they wrote the program in. The exception to this was assembly language, where the participants did consistently worse. More surprisingly, years of experience didn't correlate to performance. Number of defects in the resulting project didn't make a difference in the performance as a whole, and neither did salary. Now, moving on from things that didn't make a difference to things that potentially did, we see that whom a person was paired with correlated very strongly to how they performed. Namely, that if their partner did well, they did too, and vice versa. It's important to note that the pairs still did the challenges independently of each other, but they came from the same company. So, though working independently, they shared things like the same corporate culture, physical workspace, etc. The results of the survey, where then an average competing pair would result in an individual performance difference of just 21%. And that, as the author suggests, means something like the environment of an organization, the culture and the space and values and so on, have as much of an impact on the team's outcomes overall, on the same difference in magnitude as the difference in productivity magnitude between very good and very bad individual engineers. It also suggests potentially that good engineers tend to gravitate towards the same organizations as each other, and poor engineers tend to gravitate towards similar organizations as well. That's a compelling phenomenon to note and to reflect on when evaluating yourself and the people around you. And like I said before, keep the study in mind going forward. It's a statistically significant assemblage the authors have managed to create with these Code War game studies, and they'll be the source of more insights in upcoming chapters.